So, in today's episode of our Inspiring Women series, I'm talking to Donna Ford, a London based creative portrait and branding photographer, storyteller, and advocate for the female gaze. So, hi, Donna. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me today.
It's nice to be here.
So, I've got a few questions for you. We'll start off talking about you and your work, and then we'll talk a bit about Cyssan and Cyssan watches. Um,
Fab.
So I've read that there's a phrase you whisper to yourself before every shoot. I heal myself and others through my creativity. Could you elaborate
Yeah.
on this?
Yeah. So first of all, I got the phrase from The Artist's Way. I don't know if you've heard of The Artist's Way. It's like a 12-week program of journaling every day and having artist dates, and it's all about nurturing your inner artist. It's quite in depth, and this is one of the mantras in it, or like maybe she calls it creative affirmations or something.
Mhm.
And one of the exercises in it is to actually record yourself saying these mantras and then listening to them. And obviously, different ones stand out to all of us. And that one just really stood out to me because, of course, people come to me and they pay me to create images that they need to use for their marketing or for whatever they need it for. But when I'm doing it, it feels very different to me, actually. It feels like there's something deeper that's happening. And I'm aware that say I don't have a shoot for a couple of weeks, I start to feel quite low.
Mhm.
So I think there's something about creating images is healing for me,
Mhm.
because I think I'm using my voice and helping other people to use their voice, because I do work with a lot of women who have things to say,
Yeah. Mhm.
and even if it's a product, there's something deeper that's messaging that's going on, behind it. But then I also believe that because I know that people get really nervous about photo shoots, then and I generally, what happens is people feel a bit nervous, and once we get going, they have a great time, and then afterwards, like, I had such a great time, I didn't expect that. And I do think there's a sort of change that happens, and maybe sometimes it's small and sometimes it's bigger, but there is this kind of something shifted within them, whether it's, well, I guess a lot of the time I hope it's for their confidence. And it just actually, because I get nervous too going on a shoot, I want to do the best job I can, and
Well,
I just find it was something that made me feel calm, because it made me remember that it's not just about the photo, it's about a bit more than that, and that actually makes me feel better, not worse.
yeah, great. And you've already touched on you work with a lot of women, and you regularly shoot them in power portraits, which I think is such a great name, where you encourage the women you're photographing to be empowered to be you. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah, it I guess on a practical level, they're kind of my shortest sessions. So they're for people who might not have had shots taken before, or that don't want to invest in like a half day or a full day shoot. So I think I've always done them, actually. Probably, yeah. I mean, I would say for at least 4 years, probably. But and yeah, I mean, again, it's sort of I think it's quite a gentle, intuitive process. Like, I don't say to people like, stand and pretend you're a superhero. Like, it's not like that. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not like a fake kind of
Hmm.
fabricated thing.
Yeah.
I think even just by calling it that, it makes people think, I'm coming, because choosing to have the shoot in the first place, I think, is a really big deal. I don't think that's
Yeah,
easy. I don't,
definitely. Hmm.
and I'm talking from experience, and I had some shots taken this year, and I procrastinated for quite a while.
Yeah.
I kept finding reasons why not to do
Yeah.
it. So I
Yeah.
really get it. I really
Mhm.
do get it. But I feel like, I guess it goes back to, well, throughout history, women's voices are missing, women's stories are missing, or women's perspectives.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so hard for us to
Yeah.
put ourselves out there. It's not just vanity or ego. I mean, that's probably part of it, but it's not just that.
Mm.
So it's about, we were kind of reclaiming our power by stepping out and saying, I'm showing myself, I'm talking about the thing that I really care about, the change that I want to see in the world. And I can, I deserve to be here having my photo taken. And I think, it's, as I say, it's more intuitive than sort of, I don't fake people being powerful. That it actually just starts to happen, I think, by easing into the process. And I love that. I love that, when I send out my survey, people write back. I actually have a bit now in my survey, which is about, how did you feel how confident did you feel beforehand and how did you feel afterwards? And I think most people had a positive change, they did feel different. And obviously everybody's story is a bit different. So I love that. And then I think that's why I do it. It's not just about the photo. I care more about that really, I think, than the photo.
I've seen some of the photos, and the women do look like they're really comfortable. They look confident in the photos. You would never imagine they didn't feel confident.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like they're seeing themselves, that then when they see that photo again, because it's not a pretend thing, they're seeing a side of themselves maybe that they don't see very often. And I think, I hope that that's a catalyst for then their business or the work that they do or the activism that they do, because as I say, I think we need to hear more from women. So that's why I hope that comes across.
Have you got any tips for any budding female photographers? Creating a shop, getting started in the photography business?
Oh, golly. I do think you have to be true to yourself and you've got to find your own way. And I think when I started, I shot everything because I didn't actually really know what I wanted. In fact, I started with interiors, which I did actually really enjoy. And then I started to take photos of people and I was like, this is like the energy that you get off somebody. I just was like, this beats interiors. And then I've done weddings, which I didn't really enjoy. The stress was a bit too much. And it's not really my thing, I don't think. And I don't really like landscapes because I just like being in them. I don't want to have to photograph them, and don't really like families where I have to like get kids to behave just because I've got kids. So I don't want to be doing that for work either, I don't think. So anyway, I tried everything. And that's when I thought, there does come a time where you then have to think like this. I mean, I know I do different types of things and that I do events, I do branding, but actually it's people that's the thing. That's the constant, I guess. And like these authentic moments, because I think we all do have something we gravitate to. And then I think it's about, it's obviously taken me a while to realize that I care more about women's confidence than I do the photos. I didn't know that at the beginning, but then that becomes the fuel, because like anything, I think unless you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it on a deeper level, you do get quite fed up and you do have bad days where you think, shall I really do this? Because obviously running your business is so difficult that you're not going to do it unless you really care about it. So I think those two things are important.
Okay. And you've got an exhibition coming up soon in July?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's I'm going to start sharing about it soon, but yeah, I mean, this is probably it's quite, it feels like quite a big deal because these photos are probably I feel the most important photos I've ever taken. And they were inspired by Ophelia, the pre-Raphaelite drawing, painting, which is in Britain. And I wanted to do my own version of it. And so got some people together. And as I started to research it, I realized that I didn't know any of this because I didn't study art growing up. I didn't realize that she's from Hamlet and the whole story. She's Hamlet's lover and her dad is killed actually by her lover. So she's out wandering by the stream and she falls in and dies, basically, is the story. And it really struck me that a huge part of my life and my journey has been grief of losing my dad when I was younger. And it sort of just had this parallel, and then it kind of took on its life of its own. But it was actually really incredible. And on the night, we were at this park near my house and we were listening to quite like melancholic music, literally. So the model Anime and me were listening to it on my phone with the little earpods in our ears. And it had like the presence of that, because and we didn't talk very much, which is really unlike me when I'm taking photos. Normally we just all the time. That helps people feel relaxed. Helps me feel relaxed probably too. And it just, and even at the end, like we were all quite overcome, even like the makeup artist and the woman who was doing the flowers. And I just was doing it because I wanted to do it. I had no idea why I was doing it. And they all said, you have to have an exhibition because, they really tell a story, because they're kind of going through the woods and ending up in the water, kind of emulating this original piece of art. But it's taken a while to get it all together. But the idea is that I kind of want the photos to be a bit of a catalyst for talking about grief and death, and also like beauty and art and how we find our way through. Because I think I've always found that original painting quite inspiring and hopeful, even though I know that the kind of the context isn't. But for me, I think it's the beauty and the I don't know, there's something about it. It's really intriguing. So the idea is that we'll maybe have some events around where we might have people like reading poetry and different things. And I just think it's really important to have conversations about these things. So yeah, so that's exciting.
Sounds really exciting. Yeah, I look forward to hearing more about it. So I also want to ask you a little bit about being unconventional. At Cyssan, we believe that it's really important to be yourself, to live your life in your own unique way, be unconventional, embrace your uniqueness. What does being unconventional mean to you?
I think this is such a good question because I think I have this tension in me between not wanting to upset people or not wanting to be just different for the sake of it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I realized, I don't know if you know the Enneagram, it's like a personality typing. And I realized when I realized I was a 4, it was like being an individual, seeing everybody is so uniquely different is the way you see the world. And I was like, yes, that's, and we do feel, I think maybe all of us, but particularly women feel we have to fit in and behave or be a certain way. So I think for me, it's that kind of following your passion and not being different for the sake of being different, but because you think it doesn't fit for me, this isn't who I want to be, or so yeah, I think that's what it means to me.
Okay. And how important would you say it is for a photographer and storyteller to be a bit unconventional?
Well, that's a good question, because I think that there's that kind of a saying, there's nothing new under the sun. So, you know, everyone's done everything before. Nothing's really new. But I do think our voices, our stories are so unique. And, you know, you could have 100 people taking Ophelia as a base idea and have 100 different images.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really important. I think that you don't copy, you know. Yeah, I think you can definitely be inspired by things. Of course, we're inspired by everything around us, but I think it's like I think it's about being true to that, to you. And I actually think that can be really hard to find sometimes. I'm not saying that's necessarily easy, but it's trying to find your own style and your own voice and trusting it, like going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally, see where you're yeah. And then let's just briefly talk about our Cyssan watches. So, you know, we designed them to be worn in a more unconventional way. Yeah. Watch face here on the inside of your wrist. Had you ever worn a watch this way before?
You know, this is so brilliant because I have this memory of being a kid where I used to wear it. I think I used to wear it on, so I have it on my left arm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think growing up, men and women did it on different arms. I don't know. I can't really remember which ones. But it's because I've got a tattoo in the other one and it would cover it up that I didn't want to wear it on that one. But anyway, I remember being a kid wearing it on the opposite arm than everyone else was wearing it. And I remember wearing it on the inside of my wrist and my mum telling me not to because she's like, you're going to scratch it up. You know, don't wear it like that. So it was so funny. I have this memory come back to me thinking about this.
And how does it feel now? Yeah. How does it feel now wearing it this way?
I actually really love it because do you feel like that part of our body, that inside of our arm is quite intimate? Like it's like part of our, you know, it's sort of something we sort of hold close to us. Yes. And so there's something, like, I do find it slightly easier sorry, just to pick up my arm and look at it rather than like flip my arm over.
Yes. Yeah.
Know? And actually I think I bang it less because I think I can be quite clumsy sometimes, and I think things that are on the outside, I think I hit things more with it like that.
Yeah.
And actually, I was speaking to a friend who really loved my watch, and she's a therapist, and she was saying how handy it would be to have one because you're not so noticeably looking at it. You're not
Yeah,
like going like
yeah,
this. You can really
exactly.
subtly look at it.
Really subtle. Yeah.
That you're not time watching or showing you're bored or something or whatever. So
Yeah. Which
yeah, I
some
actually think,
professions like that is really important, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I quite like it. But then I think because it's different, it's probably why I quite like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And what do you think of the kiss and watch in general? Is it comfortable to
Well,
wear? Mm.
I love that you can swap out the straps easily because then it feels like, so I've got the black one and then this kind of
Yeah.
grey one. I don't
Transferred
know.
one, yeah.
Yeah. And I love that the black one, I don't know, it feels a bit more dressy or something. And then I don't know, depending on what I'm wearing, or it just feels like I'm changing it up a bit. But I just think like all the details as well, and just like the cleanness of I don't like, I think watch faces that are too busy,
Yeah.
or have too much going on. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
cool.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your great comments about the watch, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. Really appreciate it.
Oh,
And
it's been lovely.